Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is High Priestess Ishra, and today's Circle of Love is alchemy from past to present. A lot of people don't even know what alchemy is. Alchemy is the tapping into our old traditional ways before it was taken from us, our power of self magical ways to attract and gain and experience all that we desire in life. Now, I felt like I had to do this video because my life has always been a little bit different from other people. My life has always been about enlightenment. It's always been about decalcifying and uplifting my third eye. And so I've caught myself making higher frequency decisions when it comes to my life, like moving to Hawaii with no family, no family members around or even touchable. My closest family member is like 5,000 miles away in New York. But when I moved out here to Hawaii, my higher self helped show me that when it came to my spiritual path, going to Hawaii would be the best thing to do when it came to my learning, my evolvement, and my growth. And even though it was a hard journey, and it continuously still is a hard journey, I do not regret moving away from all the people who love me, all the people who have supported me and taken care of me. And I am out here in Hawaii doing it on my own, and it is a harder struggle, but I'm happier. I'm more focused. I'm clearer within my mind when it comes to the upliftment and the wisdom that I ascertain from my personal growth. So I decided to do this alchemy of history, or you could also call it the awakening or your third eye sense, enlightenment. So we as low vibrational beings, we are just high vibrational beings living in low vibrational bodies. And I believe the core truth about life is trying to reach your highest spiritual mindset, living a spiritually embodied life within this low vibrational human experience and third dimensional realm. So let's start the history timeline. This is a warning, you guys. I am totally ADHD, so this is going to be a quick, and I only picked the points of the timeline from all of the books that I've read and looked through that were important to me and connected to my understanding on what alchemy is and how important it is to make nothing more important than your conscious state of mind of peace. Once you decide that nothing and no one or no situation is going to throw you off your one accord to the point where you're thinking low vibrational thoughts of negativity and sadness. You realize, even though you have the key on living a happy life, it's not as easy as people say it is when it comes to living an enlightened life. A lot of people talk the talk, but not a lot of people walk the walk. You know, a lot of people say they do this, but then and they end up doing that on a regular basis. So nobody's going to know your spiritual walk outside of you. And that's why you is very important. Another thing you have to understand about alchemy or the magical mystics out there in this world is that alchemy is the power of light and dark magic. And if you practice a true balance, whether your lineage is in light magic or dark magic, you can reach the highest highs, sometimes even the lowest lows, but definitely the highest highs. But you must stay consistent with protocol, because when it comes down to the spiritual walk, there's a certain protocol that must be followed. And if you don't follow that protocol, you can set yourself up for major disasters in your life. You know that old saying, um, not the old saying, but there's an old euphemism. The best way to be is naive, because you can't get punished when you are naive. But in this spiritual walk, when you learn some shit and then you forget it, or you choose not to do it, or you get so stressed out about the lower vibrational frequencies of your life, bills, boyfriends, not getting none, where you live, things of that nature, it will hold your frequency and your energy and your heart at a lower frequency, and you will never be allowed to rise up no matter how much information you know. It's not just about knowing this metaphysical information, it's about being proactive in this metaphysical awakening walk, and how consistent you are with your awakening. All right, the first thing I have to definitely speak about when it comes to the history of alchemy is to start off with Hermeticum. To start off with Hermeticum. Now, this Hermeticum was basically 15 short treatises of, no, actually, we're not supposed to start at Hermeticum. We're supposed to start off with, yeah, Hermeticum. Okay. So it is believed through Hermeticum that humanity was, well, is, I should say, because it still says in the Hermeticum, in the world of matter, there are higher realms. And within this third dimensional human plane of matter, there are higher realms. And if you could only but raise your vibration above the matter, you are taking yourself from hell to heaven. A lot of people think hell and heaven is a place. It is not a place, it's a state of being, very similar to the root and sacral chakras, which is considered the lower hell frequencies, and the heart, third eye, and crown is considered the heaven frequencies. So when you learn to balance your heaven and your hell, you are practicing the Hermeticum aspects of beliefs, and you are dictating within you, within yourself, to choose whether you want to live in heaven or whether you want to live in hell. Now, Hermeticum was like around the 2nd century with Hermes, And around this time, there was a lot of bloodshed. Only thing you'll learn in the school systems with history is that there was a lot of bloodshed when it came to building up this thing called religion. Because before religion, there was magic, there were pagans. And the pagans kind of scared religion to the point where they banished these practices, and it took many, many eras to banish these practices. Okay? Very similar, like in 573. Did you guys know that Merlin, the enchanter, from the fictional books, is an actual person? It's an actual person. And he was an enchanter, a real person in the 6th century. Now, I wanted to mention 1230 C timeline because during the Jewish culture, they created something called the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah was born. And how the Kabbalah is, to me, connected to alchemy is that the Kabbalah is that the Kabbalah is the tree of life. It's like a tree with circles, and it's shaped into like a tree. And these circles are vectors, I believe, of your body and of your life. And if you tap in to the Kabbalah, you can learn how to adjust a lot of the frequencies in your life to reach a higher level of thinking and feeling in your life to the point of enlightenment. Now, in 1382, I have to mention around this time, which is also connected to alchemy or magic or paganism or our true traditional form of devotion to our higher entities before religion, is the Philosopher's Stone. For people who don't know about the Philosopher's Stone is like a great works of alchemy, and it's a 21-page book of alchemic emblems. And you could actually utilize these emblems in your magic and in your practices, again, to feed your awakening and take your teachings of becoming your own self God within yourself by tapping into the outer powers, whether it be nature, the animal totems, gods and deities, spirits, angels, and demons. By tapping into yourself and utilizing these emblems, you can reach a higher connective frequency with what a lot of people refer to as source or inner power, inner God power. Now, in 1555, I liked 1555 because in this era, there was a man by the name of Nostradamus, and he started the annual almanac, astrological predictions, and this is where we get our astrology from. This is where we get the knowing that if you go to an astrologer, this astrologer can use their chart, which is connected of the maps of the stars and of the planets, and actually give you an astrological reading that could help you in your many vectors of your life. And by doing this, it allows you to, one, stop bad habits that are hindering you from your enlightened growth. Two, show you, like in your home vector or your work vector or your what they call house, I call them vector, or your home vector or your love vector, what you need to do as the planetary star system that you are, because I also believe that what you see up in the sky is a complete reflection of who you are within this complicated human body. And if you utilize astrology correctly, it could help you become a better person, more enlightened. and reach a higher frequency of living and thinking. All right, now in 1850, I wanted to mention about 1850. 1850, there was a woman by the name of Maria Laveau. She was a Haitian voodoo priestess who moved to New Orleans and became a very, very popular conjurer, root worker, and hoodoo worker. She became so popular that many people knew about her and knew of her and went to her. And within doing this, it basically showed that when you do your craft right, you can help a lot of people. And it's nothing like your clients coming to you and telling you on how much their life has changed because of the magical frequency a person can have. And Marie Laveau was very good at her craft, very popular in New Orleans, very, very popular in New Orleans. All right. Now, I wanted to I wanted to go a little further back before Notre Dame. And this is the part of the history that they don't really speak about too much. They kind of skip this in school learning. They go straight to the white people who have played a part in this alchemic side of life, and they kind of skip the tribal influence of paganism and witchcraft and of witchcraft. Now, in the 5th century BCE, this is what I should have said first. In the 5th century BCE, within the Mesopotamian times, all right? Mesopotamian times. Now, Mesopotamia, which is the word Mesopotamia means land between the rivers. And I believe Mesopotamia is located in now what we call Iraq, okay? There were many, many astrologers in Mesopotamia. They were called the masteries of the star, the star laws, star lords, Lore, star lords, and they studied the position of the sun, the moon, the planets, and the clouds, and the aerial phenomenon. This was back in the Mesopotamian times. And from what I remember from my Mesopotamian learning, Mesopotamia like disappeared. The only thing that they have left of the Mesopotamians are their tribal statues and their maps of astrology and everything. And that's the only thing that's left of them. They are like, one minute they were there, the next minute they're not there. But what is left from the Mesopotamians is what the Mesopotamians wanted to leave, which was their statues and their calendars, because their calendars teach us. And a lot of priests and priestesses used astrology for mapping out the stars, and they used it mostly for royal births of kings and queens. Another time space I wanted to talk about was 347 BCE, before Christ era, if I'm not mistaken. Please forgive me. My information may be a little off, but most of it is basically on the right track. And I do these videos to remind myself because I forget a lot. All right. This time frame, 347 BCE, I felt I had to mention Plato. He's a white guy. And did you know that Plato was a wrestler? Did you know that Plato was a wrestler before he became a philosopher? And within the world of becoming a being in this world, Plato believed one thing. And the thing that Plato believed was that the best way to be enlightened is to release the blocks that we have within this low vibrational world through our senses. So basically, Plato believed that our senses, touch, smell, feel, our five senses is the exact thing, I repeat, the exact thing that hinders us from reaching a higher thinking, a higher feeling. It hinders us from reaching our God states, the senses, the feeling. But yet and still, these same feelings are the same things you can use to tap into to ignite your power if done correctly. And keep in mind, since the religion wars and since the reptilians taking over this United States of America with TV, radio, broadcast, and all of that, they personify a confusion level of frequency when it comes to our emotions to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to stop our ascension. A lot of people believe that Armageddon is this Jesus that's going to come back and it's going to be a whole big war with guns. No, Armageddon is this spiritual fight that we are having within ourselves. And the more people who tap into themselves to ignite this third eye awakening, the more we are playing our part as warriors within this low vibrational frequency to free us from the forgetfulness, to free us from our non-remembrance. Okay? You have to keep in mind, if you don't know what reptilians are, Google it. But basically, it's the species that runs most of the TV, internet, anything broadcasting. Reptilians run it, and they make it their business to keep us confused when it comes to the power of emotion. And they make it their business that we release our emotion on a lower vibrational field more so than a higher vibrational field. So I believe Plato, and that's one thing I take from Plato, which is I don't allow my five senses to throw me off track on my enlightened path of reaching the highest dimension I can before I die. That's very important to me. And Plato believed that. Okay? During this time, the goal when it came to Plato was mine. So if you're making your goal, your mindset, the most important thing, you're basically on the same vibrational thinking as Plato. Now in 387 BCE, around the Roman time, there was something called the Bacchic mysteries. This was in Rome, the Bacchic mysteries, and this was in the Rome area. And the Bacchic mysteries was a cult of women, which had day worship and also group meetings with each other. And this was all women, and these were all pagan women that performed traditional forms of magic for their adorations to the higher source. But then they did something which I feel, enrolling men into their cult, the whole cult dynamic changed. The whole cult dynamic changed. And what happened was that when the men was included in the cult and started joining the Bacchic mysteries, the pagans started to have sex rituals. They must have did the reading and realized sexual magic is just as powerful as picking herbs and following astrology. So they tapped into that sex magic. And when men were included into the group, The women stopped doing the day worshiping and started doing mostly night worships at night during witchy hour, which basically magnifies the magic intensity. And within doing this, this caused a major fear within the royal kingdoms. This caused the regular people to be scared of the pagans and worry about them because they would dance and sing, and they knew they were having sexual orgies within these occult group practices. And it kind of scared the people who were not enlightening themselves and who decided to follow the propaganda of the king. So a lot of people were murdered. A lot of people were murdered around this time. A lot of pagans were murdered, and a lot of people were arrested. Close to 6,000 people around this time period of 387 BCE. And it caused, like, I feel this is where the major started with the war, because I truly feel we're at war right now. We're at Armageddon war between enlightened people who are trying to reach a higher plane to people who just want to live on this third dimensional realm and live this life of paying bills and being miserable and stressed, you know. And I feel this is around the time frame where the spiritual wars really got intense and really started off. Now, within the first century BCE, there was a great guy called Alexander the Great. And he was the founder of this ancient city called Alexandria. And what in the history books, Alexandria is basically the apex, what was the apex for religious magic. And this is where they mixed a little bit of knowledge of the Egyptians and the initiative Greek practices. They mixed all of that together, and they utilized this belief of alchemy, which the goal was to remove obstacles that hinder you by trying to reach a mind piece of perfection. Okay? So their goals, like I've noticed the goals are the same in every era, even though I didn't do the timeline in chronological order because I should have started off with the Mesopotamians, but it's the same setup for each group that continued on with the pagan beliefs, which is not allowing the low vibrational frequencies to hinder your mind growth into the galaxies. It's about mind protection, mind building. Now in 33 CE, that's Christ era now. I would always get confused about the times. I never did well in school with the time BEC, BAC, ACD, CEE. It was really confusing to me, but 33 CE, Christ era, if I'm not mistaken, Jesus was born and created. And the reason why I included Jesus in my timeline of alchemy itself is that Jesus, a lot of people believe that Jesus is an actual person. But there's also a lot of people who believe that Jesus was a fictitious person that never existed. Yeah, a lot of people believe that Jesus is a person that never existed. A lot of people believe that Jesus, and just like everybody else in the Bible, are signs of the spiritual path, but spoken in story form. Even astrological information is in the Bible that is spoken in story form. Perfect example, like a lot of people believe the 12 apostles are actually the 12 constellation signs in the sky, similar to that. And The reason why I feel Jesus is important because in the Bible, they have a lot of stories on how Jesus used magic. Jesus made water into wine, and Jesus healed the sick and cleared the lepers and woke up Lazarus from the dead. And I feel that these are all just you know these are all just that mannerisms that are signs that show you that magic can be performed and utilized if you tap within yourself and utilize your inner power. Because within tapping into yourself and utilizing your inner power, you are allowing yourself again to tap into your God. There's nothing wrong with acquiring power from other deities, but like the mythological stories, which tell you a little bit of truth, but not all the truth. Yeah, there's a lot of demigods out there, but we are only demigods because we have forgotten that we are gods. The five percenters have it right to a degree. Yeah, we're gods, but what the five percenters I feel lack is that love energy because people outside of the five percenter set, they're not really open to allowing people who are not of them to be around them. And I feel you have to have a certain level of open heart to reach your highest high potential when it comes to tapping into your God. When it comes to tapping into your God. All right, now 57 CE. In 57 CE, in the Greek times, with the Greeks and Romans, there lived a nation of ghouls that are now, I believe, the area would be considered France. But this is when the Greeks and Romans were there, and this was during the Celtic nation time, and they were called nations of Gaul. And I believe it is now the current France. Okay, there were scholars in law, masters known as Druids, and I feel Druids needs to be mentioned because they fought Roman invaders. They fought Roman invaders. And this was the time during the Julius Caesar time. And he ruled over the Druids. And Julius Caesar was so scared of the Druids and their paganistic power that he went to their holy place, which was called the island of Mona. The island of Mona, which was a very important holy place for the Druids. And he literally made his Roman warriors completely destroy the island of Mona. You have to see, I've noticed when I did my studying for the history timeline of alchemy, is that the kings and the religious sects, year after year after year, even though they killed the people off, pagans would always come out of the darkness and into the light, and they would want to kill them. Our power of alchemy is so strong that they fear people like us. And this is why this is a war. They fear people like us because we are tapping into who we are 360 degrees wise, north, south, east, north, south, east, west, Merkaba style. And we are reaching higher levels through self. And we're making sure that none of the none of the things that they say will happen does happen, like martial law. I don't think martial law will come into effect if enough people get on this underground railroad and enlighten themselves. I really compare my enlightening path, this life I've led in all its beautiful 41 years, is that choosing spirituality is like the Underground Railroad, because it is a path that's not taken, and it's a scary path. But once you reach the end of the path, you're so much more free. You're so much more open. You're so much more at peace with your life. Because my trip to Hawaii was very difficult. And when I realized I had to do it alone, it took so much spiritual knowing and enlightenment and focus to get me here, and to then continue on with my learning and with my awakening. Um, so like I said, Julius Caesar killed lots and lots of people, and the Roman invaders completely massacred the Druids. Now in 1st century CE, there is this mythological story by a man that I respect very much, so we're tight. And it was a Norse god by the name of Odin. For people who don't know who Odin is, Odin was a Norse, very similar to Viking god, but Vikings were a little bit more cutthroaty. Norse were a little bit more nicer than the Vikings. That's how I compare it in my child mind. And he was a one-eyed god, and one of his sons is Thor, the guy with the hammer. And he had one eye, and his animal totem is wolf. And Odin had a saying. No, he didn't have a saying. He sacrificed his life to win the ruins. And what the ruins that he won was a magical alphabet of dramatic people. And it's a ruins that help Christianity further on down the line. And with Norse and dramatic pagans' traditional beliefs, this ruin played a major part in the alphabet in many different languages. It was like a base for the many different languages. Now, I have to mention one more thing about the Plato Christian era. The occult was filled with the knowing of the mysteries and of the spirit realm, fused with philosophy and the elements of Egypt and Greek. And this was the basis of deep spiritual occultism around Plato's time. Now, I know that I said that, but I just wanted to say it one more time just to be sure. Now, the next part of my timeline is 1904. 1904. This was the Aleister Crowley period. Aleister Crowley made a book called The Book of Law. Did you know that Aleister Crowley his life was hard? Aleister Crowley's life was hard. No wonder he wrote a demonic book. Yes, he came from money. Yes, he was left an inheritance after his parents died. But he had a hard life. Even when he got married, he lived a very hard life. Things just didn't go right for him. And even at the time of his death, his book was not popular. It wasn't until after he died, Aleister Crowley's book became popular. He lived a very, very, very hard life. And from the point of losing all the money that he got from his family to losing his wife, he dealt with a lot of negative things in his life. And I believe what he did right, Aleister Crowley that is that he took his sadness and he synergized it. He did what masters do. He took that anger he felt from his uneventful, unpleasant life and literally fed his books with his sadness and his hate, to the point now where the man is dead, but he has a legacy. People will be talking about Aleister Crowley until this United States of America is not here no more. So the reason why I mentioned Aleister Crowley in my timeline is that you can be Aleister Crowley. You don't have to write a Satan book, but you can tap into your emotion and release your emotion out through your godhood to where it plays a major role in your legacy and also in feeding your enlightened growth. Because a part of being enlightened is when you get to a certain part is to help others. You know, this is why YouTube is run by the Andromedans. Andromedans, if you don't know who Andromedans are, please feel free to Google it. But they're another extraterrestrial species that communicate with a lot of low vibrational humans on this earth. And I truly believe the Andromedans work together with people like YouTube and things of that nature, because the only things I can tell you about the Andromedans is they don't like to put their hand in the pot, especially during the time when the there was I forgot the name, but they don't like to put their hand in the pot. So right now, the Andromedans are allowing us within this open realm frequency, within this time where all of the grids that were locked are now being opened. There was a certain time, again, this was back in the day with the reptilians, they put, and that's how we kind of fell into this low vibrational third dimensional realm, because when we were first created as humans, we were vibrating on a very high level. But when the reptilians realized that they could make us their slaves and that they could utilize us as pig workers through our emotion, they put, I forgot the official name, but they put basically a grid around the world, so nobody wanted to get enlightened and nobody wanted to tap into their third eye power. And this grid inhibited people from reaching a higher state of spiritual beings. The reptilians did this because they wanted us to be slaves. But now that the quarantine, thank you, I think that's the word, quarantine. Now that the quarantine is lifted, the grid that the reptilians put on us, because there are higher beings that are saying, look, these people are emotional beings. They should have the right to ascend if they want to ascend. We're going to help them ascend. And it's not the Andromedans, but it was other extraterrestrial species that helped lift the quarantine. So now there are portals and there are eclipse openings that are allowing us to tap into these higher vibrational fields, and that are allowing us to extract our sovereignty, because some people, the only way they're going to get back their wealth that was stolen from them, their sovereignty, is through tapping into their third eye. And if they don't, a lot of people getting their chance to get their sovereignty back, and a lot of people are choosing not to. Now, as a high priestess, I believe I've met every person I've met has been part of my soul family, my soul group, or a part of my bloodline lineage. And I've noticed a lot of the core spiritual connections I've met have chosen not to enlighten themselves. So my heart has been broken several times, because um, you can meet a a bloodline connection. You can meet a soulmate, a twin flame, a psychic twin, a soul partner, a life mate. But if they are not, I repeat, if they are not on the enlightened path, that connection will never be able to rise to its highest potential. I don't care how many past lives you experienced with this person. I don't care how deep the love goes. I don't care how fast your heart beats. If your soul connection, your spiritual family ether energy that you're meeting through a male, a female, a dog, a cat, whatever, if they're not on that enlightened path like you, there is just a certain amount, there's just a certain level that you'll get to, and then you won't be able to pass any levels after that when it comes to walking that spiritual path and getting into God body, God mind. Okay? A lot of people want to meet their twin flame. A lot of people want to meet their soulmate, but most of the soulmate twin flame connections are doomed to fail. Why? Because a lot of people are choosing not to enlighten their minds. They are choosing not to be chosen, and they are getting stuck in this blue pill life of living and not reaching for the secrets and the unknowns that are out there for us in books, movies, YouTube videos, and everything of that nature. Oh, just to finish my thought. Yeah, so Andromedans run the YouTube, and right now, because the quarantine has been lifted, they're allowing so much spiritual information out, and they're downloading this information to so many people, because a part of enlightenment is feeding the unknown, feeding the sleeping, the spiritual, metaphysical information so they can ascend. Now, 1910, I mentioned 1910 because I'm a tarot card reader, and this was when the Rider Waite deck tarot card became super, super popular. And it became super popular, and you have to know that even the Rider deck has Egyptian influence in it. It looks like a white deck of cards, but it has a lot of Egyptian influence. And this is when the deck became popular and tarot card reading became a thing, you know? Now, I wanted to mention 1917, that hip hop was born and controlled by the reptilians through the masses. Let me explain to you why hip hop is a part of alchemy, okay? Hip hop is a part of alchemy because there's something called sacred sound. Music taps into our emotion. Remember what I said earlier, how back in the day they believed that the five senses, pagans believed that the five senses were the five things that hindered you to stay in lower frequencies and inhibited you from rising to a higher plane of thought. And hip hop was filled with such emotion, such strength, such synergistic power, that they realized that the artists who were giving out this hip hop was causing major changes in people, to the point now that they flood the airwaves with bullshit music. Pitch them, pitch to the bomb, pitch to the pitch to the bomb. Shake that booty, shake that booty, shake that booty. Pop that pop, that poopy baby, pop that poopy baby, pop the poopy baby. Just sipping on some scissor, sipping on some scissor, sipping on some scissor. Chongbei, Chongli, Chongli. Like, the music has no meaning anymore. Hip hop has no meaning anymore. And the people who need the deals are the people who are not getting them. And if you're trying to enlighten the masses nowadays in this era, it's going to be triple hard time for you to get signed. But music is power. That's all I wanted to say about the 1917 hip hop era. Music is power, and it makes shit move. All right, let's talk about now. The quarantine has been lifted. The quarantine has been lifted. There was this invisible um, force field that blocked, that was around the earth, that blocked people from awakening and lifting up their third eye and decalcifying their mind. And when the quarantine was lifted and several portals started opening, we now have the opportunity to tap in. But you must learn how to meditate. You must learn how to quiet your mind. You must learn how to block the five senses from your growth so you can take your transcendence to the next level. Right now, we're in war, like I said before, okay? And because we are in war, you just have to know that it is not a physical war. It's a mental war within the mind. It's a mental war. And until you get that, you won't be able to play your part as the warriors that are out there, angel or demon, whichever type of warrior you want to be. We won't be able to lift the vibration of this United States of America, of this human world, of this Milky Way planetary system. And we won't be able to take it to a higher level and utilize that until we as humans stop looking on the outside for shit and start focusing on your inside. Focusing on your inside is very, very important. And for as long as we're blue pill popping humans who live within who have a spiritual essence within this human body, the world will stay the same. Okay? Now to the here and right now. It is 8/5/2018. Right now, there is a Lion Gate 8/8 activation codes going on right now. And nature is reflecting these high intensity vibrations. Okay? When I moved here to Hawaii, most of the stuff I know is from not knowing and knowing. Most of my learning is not from books. It's imprinted in my DNA. And I just usually know things without knowing through the signs. Yes, I study a little, but most of the high level shit I know is just knowing, from my astral traveling to all of that. It just happens like automatically. I don't know how I do it, but I just do it. But I'm in the learning process of mastering my my masters and getting them better. But what I've noticed with this Lion Gate 8/8 frequency energy, it's intense. You know how I know it's intense? Started 2 days ago, there has been brush fires popping up. There have been brush fires popping up everywhere here on the island. A lot of people are saying, oh, people are going into the mountains and smoking, and that's why the fires are happening. No, these fires are happening on different parts of the mountains around where I stay at, to the point where they even evacuated my area. But I was like, nope, I'm gonna be right here. I'm gonna be right here taking care of what I need to take care of in my house. I'm not going anywhere. The God's got me. But I believe these brush fires, because Hawaii, just like New Orleans, is, I feel, a very powerful energy vortex when it comes to alchemy and magic and synergy and earth power and nature. And that's one of the reasons why I moved out here, because I knew Hawaii would aid with my spiritual growth. I just knew it was a powerful place. And now this Lion Gate eclipse portal energy is opening up and it is reflecting on my island. Fires started 3 days ago. There are still fires going on in certain places on the mountain in on my island where I live at. They're still trying to put out these fires in the different area. So this is telling me the portals are strong. Yeah, YouTube says it. I've watched a couple of videos on the Lion's Gate, but I always see what YouTubers are speaking about through my day to day. And I affirm the Lion Gate energy portals, they're open and they're strong. So this is the best time to learn how to meditate or tap into your meditation some more. Burn your candles, work on yourself, because while these gates are open, you guys, I'm trying to tell you, while these gates are open, the galaxies are, they have a bigger propensity to help you with your growth. Okay, so if you have trouble meditating, you need to be meditating right now because the gates are open. You know, pop in a YouTube video, chant, sing, whatever. Meditation can be singing, dancing, whatever. Whether it's active meditation or slow your mind down meditation, tap into your meditation, speak to your ancestors, get into this energy vortex, attempt to astral travel, talk to the moon, talk to the sun, tap in. Because right now, as the portals are wide open, you have a better chance of actually experiencing a higher frequency of connection. Real talk, real talk. So do not waste this Lion's Gate frequency because the veil is open. It's like a highway for spiritual path gainers. And when the portals are open, this is allowing the fifth dimension frequency to shine through so then it could connect with us, the humans, on the third dimensional realm. Now, energy like this, we haven't seen energy like this for like thousands of years. It's been a while since the energy has been in this intense. And this energy will be intense until August 11th, which is the new moon coming up this Friday. And then it reopens again in November. I believe it has to do with the autumn equinox or something like that. But they stay open strong until 11th, and then they, and then they open back up again in October or November. I'm not too sure, October or November. So I did a history timeline on alchemy to, one, remind myself why I feel my path is so important to me, and why, even though disappointment after disappointment, when it comes to this third dimensional realm bullshit, is not the main focus. My enlightened path is the main focus. My awakening is the main focus. And for as long as I have to do it on my own, which is basically from birth till death, I will do it with a loving and giving heart. I'm at a point in my walk where I don't even fuck with secular people. Like, I've been on this island for about almost 2 years, and I really don't have too many friends. I can't be like, oh, let me call my girlfriend to hang out with her. The one friend I did have, Spirit took away from me because she was a bad influence. And I tried my best to stay friends with her, but Spirit made it its business to make sure that she didn't want to be friends with me. So I really have no friends out here. My main focus is my family and my enlightened path, and that's what I do. And one thing I've noticed with spirit or with my oversoul is that anything I ask for, I get as a high priestess. So when I get upset for not getting something I want, I never worry, because if it's meant for me to have it, I end up getting it anyway. And that is me tapping into my power, because I do believe I'm a god. I tap into my energy, into my power, into my genetics. And when I need to, I turn into the God that I know that I am deep on the inside. So to close, you guys, don't waste this Lion Gate energy frequency. And I would do like a refresh ritual for the new moon and tap into that new energy. But remember, you must tap into yourself, because within tapping into yourself, you are allowing yourself to get closer to your God. Because when you get closer to your God, you are turning yourself into a God body and God mind. And this world, sadly, promotes that we are not God. This world promotes that God is something you have to go to at a church to get access to. I don't believe that. Your God is within you. Your power is within you. You don't have to go to a third party to tap into your God power to get what you desire. Learn to tap into nature. Learn to tap into the many different deities that are there to help you. Learn to tap into one-mindedness and peace and focus. And you will be well on your way becoming a God body, into becoming what God is, which is you. Pure supersonic energy. My name is High Priestess, and this has been a history timeline of alchemy, the magical mystic way. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and utilize this Lion Gate energy. It's very strong and powerful. Tap into yourself, you guys. Later.